Hello and welcome to Barry Does. Today we are going to do Italian meatballs. Barry does Italian meatballs. It's a bit of a process, not too difficult, but to get it right, you gotta follow the directions. First things, what we need to do is we need to chop up and mince 8 or 9 cloves of garlic, finely minced, done already. A half of a good sized onion. We're going to be working with 3 pounds of meat. In this case, I like to do 2 pounds of meat and approximately a pound of pork sausage. And then we mix it together. We're going to need 3 eggs. We're going to need some spices. It took me a long time. I had to grind up and to make some sourdough, stale sourdough crumbs. And they were a little bit old, so I had to heat them up in the oven, put them in here, and grind them up with a roller pin so they're the right consistency to add to the meat. I really like sourdough breadcrumbs for this particular deal. We're also going to need some, we're going to need some Parmesan cheese, which I have, and I think we're just about ready, so I'll take it piece by piece. First thing is to finish up and to dice the half of an onion, half of a medium to large onion. I showed you in my last Barry Does marinara sauce how to do it. Pull off the skin, cut it in half down the axis. Should come right off pretty easily, as it does. And then cut it into 4 spots or 5 spots. In this case, I'm going to probably do 5 or 6 because I want the pieces to be slightly smaller. And 1 more here. There we go. And then we do them in a fine dice. In this case, maybe not even a 1/4 inch. I expect to be about 1/8 of an inch. So I get a really nice dice on this onion. I shouldn't have to cut it up anymore once I do this. Of course, it's going to fall apart on me now because I don't have a super sharp knife today. And then we're going to dice it up into small pieces. We'll get to stage 2. So here we go. Time to add the meat. 2 pounds ground beef. It can be 80%, 20% fat. That's okay because you're going to be cooking the meatballs. You're going to first of all pan fry the meatballs after everything's done. And that's going to pretty much render most of the fat out of it. I'm going to start simmering the sauce that I did from the previous episode, Barry Does marinara sauce. And we're going to start simmering this sauce so we can add it to our spaghetti. It's going to be nice. Meatballs and spaghetti, classic. Best thing to do with this is to cut it, and slice it. We'll put it in our bowl because we're going to do a little bit of kneading and a little bit of mixing. That's part of the whole process. Get up all that meat. And then we'll move on to stage 2. Spice time. I've kneaded everything up. Most of it is mixed in pretty nicely right now. Now we're going to add a little bit of parsley. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of parsley and 3 teaspoons of oregano. In the case of the oregano, let's see what we can do here. Teaspoons. Well, this oregano is not broken up, so I'm going to grind it myself. I'm going to have to. Finely ground, you're okay. But I'm going to do 2 teaspoons, short. It's okay to grind it up with your hand. 1 more. This one I can do with parsley because it's already finely ground. Remember, you use your finger to flatten it out so it's an accurate gauge. 2 parsley. We need a half a teaspoon of pepper and a half a cup of Parmesan. Finely ground, grated Parmesan. I like Belgioso because it's Italian. It's got a little more bite to it, which makes it pretty good for me. And then you need lots of kneading. So I just put in the pepper, half teaspoon of pepper, and now we need to knead everything up. So I just put in the half a teaspoon of black pepper, and I just added 2 teaspoons of salt. All of our mixture is now ready to go, and we have to continue kneading. Kind of like you used to do when you had dough. Make sure that everything is mixed in there as well as you can so you can see a little bit of everything as you go. Main thing is to get the pork and the ground beef, mixed in with the onions and the garlic so there's a consistency of flavor. We will then be rolling it out using my hands. I'll roll it out into what looks like to be about an inch and a half meatballs. I don't use big meatballs because, first of all, they're a lot tougher to deal with. And second of all, consistency, because you're going to be wanting to do meatball sandwiches when you have these meatballs left over. And everybody loves a good meatball sandwich, at least I think. And then we'll be ready to roll. I brought out my marinara sauce. I've got it in a stock pot, and it's going to heat up, slowly simmer. In the meantime, time for meatballs. Kind of grab a handful, roll it up like this, get the right size. That's a little bit big. Gonna have to eye it to get it just about right. Yeah, that's about it. A little bit smaller than that. You can see it's got onion in it, everything else. And we're gonna do it approximately that size. Looks like it's about an inch and a half, no more than an inch and a half. And this will probably be about, I would imagine we'll probably do it twice, 2 or 3 times. We'll cook it up and we'll get them ready, and then we'll put them in the sauce. As the sauce starts heating, you really want the meatballs to soak up some of that sauce. I'll be adding a little more oregano to this sauce, because as I mentioned the last time that we did marinara sauce, depending on the dish, you're going to be adding more seasonings. In this case, we're going to add oregano to the sauce here, and then once we have this cooked up, we'll let it simmer a little bit longer with the meatballs in it, and onward from there. You're getting the idea of how to make these meatballs. That's the right size right there. The nice thing about meatballs is you could do a small test batch, see how it comes out. Perhaps you messed up your recipe a little bit. It was a little off. Well, you still got quite a bit left to rectify the situation. You want to brown it on about 4 sides if you can help it. And then it's really important to cook the meatballs in the sauce for another 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That also finishes the cook for the meatballs in case you have any slightly undercooked parts in the inside of the meatball. And we will take it from here. Once I get this nicely cooked up, I'll try a single meatball, and then we'll cook it up, and we're ready to go. So I've cooked my pasta. In this case, we're going to do fettuccine instead of spaghetti. And a couple of little secrets to do here. Now that everything's cooked up, I've put the meatballs in the sauce. I've allowed it to simmer slowly for about another 15-20 minutes. It takes about 15-20 minutes to cook up the pasta. One of the nice little things that you're going to want to do is see I have this wonderful sauce with the meatballs in it. Probably see something like that. You dump it into the spaghetti. That way you let the pasta pick up the flavors of the sauce. Always a good idea. And then garnish with a little bit of cheese. Let these guys soak in for a little bit. I want the pasta to take on the flavor of the sauce. I'm going to split it up a little bit. And then I'll do a plate so we can have a picture of it for you. So then instead of it being meatballs and spaghetti, it'll be meatballs and fettuccine. Oh well, I ran out of spaghetti. We're almost done. Almost done. Now, for purposes of garnishment, a little bit of Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top. A little bit more. Get a little bit on the meatballs. I got 4 meatballs here. And I'll take a picture of it so you can see.